here we are, Tim, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the Hard Rock Resort and Casino, and it's my pleasure to be talking to my good friend and fellow veteran, Gene Mollberg. Gene, thank you so much for the opportunity to sit down today with you and talk about your life and about your service in Vietnam. Now, this is a unique situation because we are actually at the 2021 Wolfhound reunion here in Tulsa. So we're taking time out from the reunion to talk to Gene, and so this is kind of a one-time opportunity. So glad you're here. Gene, to start, I just want to ask you, where were you born and raised?
Well, I was actually born in Spooner, Minnesota, which is no longer, it's Baudette, Minnesota.
Okay. And tell me about your parents.
My dad passed away when I was about 4 years old, and my mom remarried, and I had a stepdad for many years. And right now he's in the care center, but doing okay.
Mm-hmm. How about your mom?
My mom passed away a year and a half ago. Okay.
And go ahead.
She was 96. She was
96, oh, bless her heart. Now, let me ask you, do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yep, I have 2 brothers, Mel and Steve, one older and one younger. I got a sister, Linda, that's a year and a day younger than me. And I've got 3 half-sisters, Ardell, Kathy, and Mark.
And where are they living? What part of the country are they in?
Well, Linda's out in New York, and the 3 girls, Ardell, Kathy, and Margot, they're out in Virginia. And my 2 brothers are both in Baudette.
Okay, so some of them stayed close by and others went all over the place, it sounds like. Good. Let me ask you, concerning your Army service, did you get drafted or did you join?
I got drafted.
Okay. And tell me, what date did you enter the Army?
August 21st, 67.
Okay. And at that time, were you married or single?
Single.
Okay. And when you realized, when you got the letter, I'm assuming you got your draft letter.
Yes.
What were you doing?
I was working for Coast and Geodetic Survey. We were building survey towers for, they put them up and run lights off them at night for aeronautical maps.
Okay.
And that's when I got drafted.
Were you making pretty good money as a young guy?
Oh yeah.
I would think.
Kept my pocket full.
Yeah, okay. And so you get the letter and you read it. What was your first reaction?
Well, I don't really remember. I know there was me and 3 other guys from Baudette that got on the bus, and we were going to Minneapolis Induction Center.
Did you know these guys?
Yep.
Okay.
And we got on the bus, the draft lady, we asked her, it was a bus that was going to Canada and then coming back into the United States over in International Falls. And we asked the lady, what if we get off over there in Canada? And she says, all I got to do is make sure you get on the bus. But we went, and all 4 of us ended up in Vietnam.
I'll be darned. Where did they send you for basic training?
Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay. And that, which is interesting because that's where I ended my Army career. I did my last 6 months at Fort Campbell. Mm-hmm. So now, what time of year was that again?
August.
Oh, so you weren't there during the winter time?
Well, went to, there was hot, and then we advanced infantry training in Fort McClellan, Alabama, and the nights were awful cold there.
Oh yeah, because I remember when I was at Fort Campbell, it was during the wintertime, and it was some of the coldest weather I'd, and coming from Vietnam, of course, you know, we were not used to that, so. But, and then, so AIT, Fort McClellan.
Yep.
And tell me just a little bit about what you remember about your AIT experience.
Well, there's a lot of night patrols and long marches and pretty much trying to get us in shape to go overseas. We all knew we were going there.
Did you get to shoot any weapons?
Yep. Qualified for the M60, the M16. What else? Pistol, 45 pistol.
I'm going to back up just a little bit. In basic, at the end of basic is when they sit everybody down and call out the MOSs. Did you think that you might be going to radio school, or did you think you might be going to, because of your background, what did you think your MOS was going to be?
Oh, I knew it was going to be infantry.
Why did you know that?
That's what they said we were going to be. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, well, and that's the same. That was the same with me too. The 98% of the guys, 98 out of 100 guys went infantry.
Well, unless you extended or re-enlisted or something.
Went to OCS or something like that. Yeah. And do you remember what date did you arrive in Vietnam?
February something, early part of February, because it was during TET.
68.
68.
Yeah. And where did you land when the plane came in? Do you remember where you landed?
I think it was Long Bend.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about what your very first impression was when they opened the door of the plane and you walked out.
It was hot and it smelled.
What did it smell like?
I don't know, something I'd never smelled before or since.
But it made an impression on you.
Yes, yeah.
Do you think in your mind you were thinking, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, just figuring out if tough it out.
Yeah. Oh, you sure were there. You weren't going anywhere else, right? So, and then, you went to the replacement station.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I think we spent a couple days there, and they call off guys' names. You're going here, going there. And then they called my name off and said, you're going to Cu Chi, 25th Infantry. That's all I really knew at that time.
Did they put you on a deuce and a half or something? And
if I remember right, they put me on the helicopter. I was just by myself.
So you were by yourself going there?
Yeah.
So you got a helicopter ride your first day?
Yeah.
Oh man, what did you think of that?
It was all right. Better than walking.
Oh, of course. Overall, did you like riding in choppers?
Yes.
Yeah, I did too. I've always, I think all of us when we came back, we all, even to this day, I'd like taking on the ride.
Yeah.
So, and so you were assigned to Cu Chi, but did they tell you specifically what company you were going to be in? And
I don't remember that for sure, but when I got, they sent me over to Charlie Company, 2nd and 27th.
Mm-hmm. And who was the very first person you met?
I met Dave Kelly. He was a company clerk.
Mm-hmm. And how did that go?
Oh, good. He showed me where I could put my stuff, and he gave me a foot locker to said, put stuff in there, you probably won't see it for a year. And you'll be going out to the field the next year.
Yeah. Did you go to jungle school that they had in Cu Chi?
No.
They had a 5-day, were you aware of that?
I never.
I wonder if they had it at that time.
Maybe not.
Because I know by the time I got there, everybody had to go through that it was called booby trap and jungle school or something like that. So, and how did you get out to the field? That's number one. And number two, where was your unit at?
Well, I pretty much, all these fire sport bases that everybody talks about, I don't remember hearing any of those names the whole year. We were just out in the field. We'd set up here and move somewhere. I remember the day before I was leaving, there was two guys from the Charlie Company coming in, going R&R. And one of them was, his last name was Lutz, and the other was Keating. And I think they were both from Michigan. And them are the two guys I met. They were in the, when they got off R&R, they were in our unit.
So if I said Crockett Fire Support Base, would that ring a bell at all?
No, they,
And that was
back then.
and that was the closest one to Coochie. You know, that Crockett was pretty close to Coochie. But when you went to the field, did you get there on the supply truck that they were sending out every day?
I think so, yeah.
And then when you got there, who did you report to, or how did you know who you were going to be with?
Well, they just, I don't know if it was an E6. I can't remember what his name was. He just told me, he said, go over to that bunker and your squad leader will be coming in off, they've been out on patrol. And, that was it.
Do you remember who the platoon sergeant was at that time?
I don't know who the platoon sergeant, but my squad leader was Joe O'Donnell.
Joe O'Donnell?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've heard other people looking for him. The other day coming down here, we stopped in Kansas City and met a guy that was in the first platoon. And he remembers a lot of the names that I remember. We got to talk a lot.
Do you remember what the guy's name was?
Bob, trying to think his last name. It's kind of a different name, but he came to, I think it was the last Branson, Missouri reunion. Him and his brother just drove down for the day.
Okay. He was one of our guys.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me ask you this. When you finally got in your platoon and your squad and so forth, do you remember the first time you left the wire?
Yeah. First night or second night I was there, four of us went out on the listening post. It was kind of scary the first time out, you know, why you got to go out there. But we went out and set up, and I was the only one that had a watch, and we were supposed to take turns pulling guard. And I think I was going to pull the third guard. So I gave the watch to the guy that was pulled first, and he must give it to the second guy, but next thing I remember is this E6 had a hold of my shirt and had his knife out by my throat. He said, "Who's on guard?" He had crawled out from the perimeter because they couldn't get no answer out of us. And this guy that was supposed to wake me up fell asleep.
He was sound asleep.
Yeah. And so from that time on, I didn't sleep at night. I'd take a little cat nap in the morning.
Yeah.
Before we went out on patrol or after we come in from ambush.
So basically, he threatened to cut your throat.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. That wasn't uncommon. I remember Sergeant Hanna always used to tell the guys, "If you go to sleep on guard, I'm going to cut your throat." Yeah. I mean, he meant it. Yeah. You know, I mean, because it was just too dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, the gooks walking around at night. If they walked into you and you're asleep. That'd be the end of that. So, do you recall your very first ambush patrol?
I don't know about my first one, but I know one ambush patrol we were on, we got all set up and all of a sudden we seen some movement. There were two guys behind us on a berm, and we brought 6 or 8 of them coming on another berm in front of us. And we were getting ready. And a guy by the name of John Stoner, we call him Fat John. He was laying on the berm sleeping. And so I reached up and grabbed his shirt, and I figured as soon as somebody busted the ambush, I'd pull him off that berm. And, nobody fired a shot. We let him walk right on by.
Do you remember about how many guys were in your patrol at that time?
Oh, there's probably 6, 8 of us.
So not a lot of guys.
No. Our squad, there was probably half a dozen. If you got a dozen guys, you had a crew.
Yeah. And see, a lot of people don't realize that normally an ambush patrol would be about like 25 guys.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but we never
No.
had enough guys to do that. So when you said you let them go by, was the reason because of how few guys you had? And you thought if we open up on them, you know...
Oh, I guess we were waiting for each other to open up and nobody did. And basically the 2 guys behind us, we didn't want them. We didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And they walked on the berm behind us, and the other ones were on the berm in front of us, and we just happened to be in the middle.
You were in the middle? Yeah, I was just going to say. So they walked off into the night?
Yeah.
And then, do you remember the next morning? Did everybody go, holy smokes, did you see that and all? Yeah. So that was your first experience.
Yeah.
How long had you been in country when that happened?
Oh, I don't know, remember, I suppose probably 4 months, 5 months.
Okay. So you'd been out walking around in the field, but you hadn't seen any action yet.
Well, we took some action. The first 5 days I was in country, we were in 3 different firefights. And in fact, one time, it was about 2 months after I'd been in country, we walked into an area and set up, and I said to Joe O'Donnell, I said, there's something scary about this area. I didn't like it. He said, well, don't you remember? And I said, remember what? He says, this is when we went out, the first firefight was in this.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
It was a graveyard, what we set up in. And then I didn't know one place from the other, and I never really got to read a map much until I had right towards the end. I had to take out an ambush patrol.
Tell me a little bit about the first firefight you were in.
The first one that I guess it wasn't really the first one, but it was the scariest for me.
Mm-hmm.
We were in a rice paddy, dry rice paddy, and we got sniper fire pinned down from a hedgerow. And me and another 60 gunner were laying out in the middle of a rice paddy. And guys were back behind us, and there's 1 or 2 in front of us. And that was the day Ronnie Blair got killed. And around for getting awful close. And the other guy's 60 quit on him, and he said, I'm getting out of here, and he got up and took off running. Well, I just kept firing, and then after we crawled back finally, and they sent in jets and napalm. We never did find anything, so it must have been a couple of them that had a whole company of
Or
squad.
in spider holes or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. So that was your first experience with having one of your guys get killed?
Yeah, somebody real close, yeah.
How did that affect you?
I guess I didn't let it bother me too much. You knew these guys and their names, but you didn't really. You weren't close to a few of them, so you knew, or at least it wasn't you that somebody else. And the worst part about him was that he was supposed to go the next day on our Hawaii to get married, and the company commander, captain, whoever was in charge, told him, no, we want to leave him back.
Yeah.
And he said, no, we need everybody.
Oh, man.
So,
One day before getting out to
Yeah.
go to R&R. Oh, that's a shame. How important was you to receive mail and care packages when you were in the field?
it was about the highlight of the day.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't get anything, you were kind of bummed out. I was lucky I had a gal that was in probably 3 years behind me in school. Good friends, and she was in home ec and stuff, so she'd send me care packages. They'd make stuff at school.
Oh, that's cool.
And then she always wrote a letter and all the latest gossip of it at home.
Oh, yeah. Did you have any girlfriends, or did you have a girlfriend when you left for Nam?
No,
Okay. And then how about your mom? Did she send you stuff from homemade stuff, or?
I don't remember too much. Mostly just she'd send me letters.
Okay. And who else did you receive letters from? Your brothers and sisters?
I don't remember too many of them. Sending me it.
Did you save any of your letters?
I've got a bunch from that gal that high school friend.
When you got home from Vietnam, did you look her up?
Yeah, in fact, she comes home for a reunion. I think she lives in Texas or someplace now. If she's in town, she looks me up. And nice talk.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was nice of her to do that. I mean, that's actually darn nice. So, do you remember any of the guys that ever received a Dear John letter from home?
Yeah, I don't remember names, but I remember hearing of different ones.
And what effect did that have on a guy?
A lot of them were pretty bummed out.
Did you ever think it might affect their ability to keep their focus and stuff?
I don't know, it seemed like most guys, once you left the wire and out in the field, they're on their toes.
Yeah, yeah. And who were your closest buddies in the platoon?
Well, Joe O'Donnell was one of them. This Phillips that carried machine guns. There's a guy by the name of Danny Metcalf. And, John Stoner, in fact, when I got out and ended up in Texas my last 5 months, he was on Fort Hood, Texas, too.
So Fort Hood is where you did your last...
Well, I ended up over on a little, it was called Clean Air Base. We were supposed to be door gunners for helicopters.
Okay.
We had a lot of warrant officers there waiting to get out. And, so we just signed up on the roster and go flying with them.
Well, that was probably pretty good.
In fact, it's kind of fun. One time we sat out in the field and the pilot says, put some rocks on the plane, on the chopper. So we were throwing rocks on there. I figured he was going to do some kind of a little takeoff and we're weight or something.
Oh, yeah.
We get up, and we're flying around up there, and okay, so we're going to be bombing armadillos, he said.
Oh, no. Oh.
So we were kicking rocks out.
So you could see them running around down there?
Yeah.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I think if we got caught, we'd probably be hot water type thing.
Bombing armadillos, that's great. If you were to think about your whole time in the field, what was your absolute worst day?
Well, that day that Blair got shot, probably the day that I thought I had bullets kicking up a couple inches from my shoulders. And I was laying flat on the ground and no place to go.
Tell me what it sounds like when a bullet goes by you.
It's an eerie sound, kind of a crack.
Yeah, it's a snap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the worst ones are the ones that go by your head.
Yeah. Or close.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very distinct sound. And did you get an R&R?
Yep, I R&R'd to Australia.
Oh, okay. Tell us about that.
That was 7 days of having a lot of fun. We were in Sydney.
Did you go alone, or was there anybody else that went with you?
There was a bunch on the plane, and we just kind of got talking and run together.
Did you have a hotel room, or where did they put you up?
It was in a hotel, and this lady that ran it, she wanted each of us to give her our home phone number. And while we were there, somehow she got us connected with home. We got to talk to our parents.
Wow.
And that was something she just did for the soldiers.
Jeez.
When they stayed there.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you did on R&R.
Mostly drank. Drank and ate.
Mm-hmm.
We did go to the zoo one day. But other than that,
Kangaroos?
well, it was everything. I mean, there's one big old gorilla in there that we were trying to make noise. He wouldn't, as long as we stand there, he wouldn't. As soon as we turn and walk away, then he'd do his...
Oh, yeah. Thumping on his chest
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, yeah. What did it feel like when you left R&R and went back out into the field?
Oh,
And by the way, did you go on R&R like 6 months after being there, or what time did you go?
can't remember exactly. I think it was, I know in August when I got wounded, and I can't remember if it was before. I'm pretty sure it was before I was wounded, so it was somewhere between February and August.
Okay. And then, so you have this great time, you for a little bit, you get to forget about the war, and then all of a sudden now you have to go back. What was that like?
Well, every day you knew you were 1 day shorter. And, the unit we were with was pretty good, even though we seemed like they always sent us into one body count. Kept you.
You mentioned you were getting short. What does it really feel like when you get to a point where you know you've only got like 3 months left? What starts happening?
Start counting the days. Marking them off on a calendar.
And were you still out in the field?
Yep, when I got wounded in August. I spent 30 days in Cameron Bay in the hospital, and I was hoping to come home. They were short of people, so they sent me back to was out in the field until probably 2 weeks, maybe before. They let me go back in 2 weeks before.
And tell us a little bit about how you got wounded.
Well, we were in an area that had booby traps, and we were throwing a rope and like an anchor and dragging it back and setting off anything we could find.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And all I remember is we were getting up to move ahead, and somebody hollered, come around behind and then follow through on where we were going. And this guy, the 5 days in country, he cut kitty corner across, and he stepped on it. He was probably about maybe 10 feet from me. Killed him.
Oh, so it killed him outright.
Yeah, he just a pile of mush. Got me and 3 other guys. He medevaced us into Pucci.
What, did you get shrapnel in your legs? Or?
Yeah, back, my legs, my back, my arm.
Oh, yeah. By the way, when that explosion went off, do you remember, did you know you were hurt right off the bat?
Well, trying to pick myself off the ground.
Oh, so it just blew you over.
Yeah.
So you knew something
Yeah.
bad had happened.
And I looked around. I figured maybe we started receiving fire and stuff. And I was looking around for my machine gun and find it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it went. And calling the chopper. And we were at the medevac station in Pucci, and then they flew me up to Cameron Bay. And I spent about 20-some days there.
Mm-hmm. Well, from what you're saying, I would have thought that would have been it.
Well,
I would have thought you would have either just stayed back in the rear or something.
I kept asking every day, when do I get to go home? And one day they come and they say, well, you're going back to your unit. And my wounds weren't even healed up at that.
Oh my gosh.
But they were short of guys.
Oh, always. We talked before about time you spent around Godaha. Tell me a little bit about that time period and what you guys were doing at that time.
We were making a lot of sweeps and ambushes, and that's where I was wounded. There's a little village. We were just outside that village. We knew there were booby traps in the area.
Did you ever get up to the sugar factory?
I think it was up there. We were in an area where they had must have been an ice plant of some kind. We were along the Saigon River. I remember those things, but I don't know why I don't remember. Everybody talks about every different fire support bases. They don't ring bells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember that darn sugar factory. I remember it was kind of an eerie place that you always thought you were going to get ambushed. You know, there was just so many places for them to hide, and to ambush up
We were
there.
in the Hobo Woods, Iron Triangle.
You probably ran a lot of ambush patrols in there.
Yeah.
And at the time, we can look back now historically, and we can find out that the NVA had battalion-size elements in the Hobo Woods.
Yeah.
Did you know at the time?
No.
I never knew any of that. Did the Army know that?
They must have. They kept having us in there.
I mean, when you think about it, we were small units.
Yeah.
I mean, were they like trying to see if they could get them to come out or what?
I don't know.
But after I got home and I found out what we really had been involved with, man, I thought this was really bad.
I know there was a few times they said we never went into Cambodia, but I know we were in.
Yep, I know for a fact we were too, sure. Now, Jim Calvert, you knew Jim.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you guys met and what your relationship was.
He's a resupply sergeant, and right at the end, I was helping him the last 10, 15 days. I was right out on the truck with him, and
Oh, so you were on the supply truck?
yeah,
Okay.
the last few days. And that's when Rockaway was out in the field. He had 30 days left to go when I left country.
And we were at Diamond.
And anyway, that night we went out on took resupply out there. I brought a bottle of whiskey and a case of beer with me. In Brockway, got drunk that night. CO gave me an Article 15, which never followed me back.
Yeah, yeah.
And in Brockway, he didn't get Article 15 because he was a radio operator for the CO.
Correct. Yep, he sure was. Yeah, that's right.
But it was kind of strange when I got back. I had 30-day leave, and I went to Fort Hood, Texas. And we were sitting there waiting to...
Now, this is when you got home.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what date did you leave Vietnam?
It was February 69.
So it would have been exactly a year after you came?
Yeah.
So, yeah, after an exact year. And what was your feeling when you actually got on the Freedom Bird and it was going down the runway?
Well, it was pretty quiet. Nobody said much of anything, and once them wheels started lifting off, that's when everybody, we knew we were
And
on our way home.
all heck broke loose, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of cheering and,
Yeah.
yeah. And what was your first impression when you landed? Did you land at Travis?
Well, I think we stopped a couple places to fuel up.
Like Guam or Hawaii
Yeah,
or
Guam and I think Wake Island.
Wake, yeah, yeah.
And we didn't, I don't think we stopped in Hawaii. They flew into California.
So Travis is probably, that's where most of us came in. And so now the plane touches down in the US and you get off the plane. What was your feeling about that?
Well, just relief that we're finally home.
And did your folks know you were going to be there? Did they know you were coming?
Yeah, I got another plane and flew into Minneapolis. And it's kind of funny, my one little sister, her half-sister, she went with us. My mom took me to the airport when I went to the airport. And when I came back, and first words out of her mouth when she seen me, she said, "He's still here." Like I've been at the airport for...
That's funny. That's funny. So did you get any awards or citations when you were in Vietnam?
Purple Heart, Bronze Star, CIB, a few other accommodations.
Okay. And how much time did you have left when you got home in the Army? How much time left in the Army?
I had 6 months or 5 months. I took a 30-day leave.
Okay. And where did you finish out your commitment?
I was in Fort Hood, Texas, or Queen Air Base.
And what did you do there?
We were supposed to be door gunners on helicopters. We didn't have no door guns. Rode helicopters.
A lot of warrant officers there?
Yeah. Mainly tried to stay out of trouble. So
Yeah.
Tried to do
Yeah. What did you do? What kind of a job did you get when you left the Army?
I think I started working in a steel mill.
And this is in Baudette?
No, this is in St. Paul.
Oh, okay.
Minneapolis.
Okay.
My folks had moved from Baudette to Hastings, Minnesota. He worked for the government, and then they moved to on out east finally to Washington. But I stayed in Minnesota. I worked in the steel mill for a couple of years, and then I decided I didn't like the city, so I went, signed up vocational school in Bemidji. I was going to go into auto body, and they said I had to have a year of mechanics first, because I want to be a mechanic. So what else you got? They said we got carpentry, so that's what I took, and been doing it ever since.
Well, I'll be darned. So you got a trade, you learned a trade out of that deal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And so when did you, I guess, how do I put this? When did you start going around with girls and you got interested in getting married and having a family?
Well, that would have been when I was in vocational school. I was 25, 26 years old.
Okay.
My wife there at the vocational school.
What was she doing? Student?
Yep, she was going for bookkeeping, kind of. She worked at she, in fact, after she got done, she went to work at a bank in the city.
Okay. And how long did you go together before you got married?
Probably almost a year, because I had one more year of vocational school.
Okay.
After that, we got married.
And then when did you start having a family?
It was about a year later.
Okay. And how many kids?
2 boys,
And what are their names?
Scott and Bob.
Scott's the oldest?
Scott's the oldest, and Bob's a year and a half.
And what are those boys doing these days?
Well, Scott's out in North Dakota driving truck, and Bob works at the Holocaust Museum in D.C. He started out as on guard, now he's kind of in charge of all the guards and doing their scheduling. And his wife teaches school all the time.
Okay. Do you have any grandkids?
Yeah, we have 3. Scott's wife, Colby, is 25, 26 years older. And then I have Connor's a junior, or he'll be a senior this coming fall. And Aiden, she's 7th, 8th grade.
No great-grandchildren yet?
No.
That'll come next. I've got 3 of them. So, after you came home from Vietnam, did you keep in touch with any of the guys?
Dave Kelly, he's always sent me a Christmas card. And on one trip we were going out east to see my sister in New York. We went through Indiana and stopped and seen him. And I think he's the one that probably gave my name out there when you started the reunions.
Yeah. When Dave helped me with names. He helped me with a lot of names.
Yeah.
And he had a good memory about where guys were from too.
Yeah.
You know, he was a lot of help. When was your first reunion? When did you attend the very first one?
It would have been one in Vegas.
Okay. What was your impression when you were there and saw the guys and whatnot?
Well, I didn't recognize anybody or remember anybody. Mostly, as I found out, mostly the guys that are coming to the reunion probably came as I was getting ready to leave Vietnam.
Did you know Willie?
I think I knew Cal and Willie, their names are familiar. They weren't in my squad or anything.
Yeah, I mean, they were there when you were there.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering. Yeah. we're getting kind of towards the end here, so I'm always interested in asking guys, what does your wife mean to you?
Probably kind of a savior in a sense. If I wouldn't met her and married her, I probably would have never got married. Who knows what I would have ended up doing. Well, we have a nice, raised a nice family. Peaches and cream by no means.
How many years have you been married?
Oh, it's getting close to 50.
So you're going to be celebrating your 50th?
Well, I think it's 46 or 47.
You're almost there. Yeah, you bet. What is your definition of a hero?
I think most of them are on the wall in D.C. Guys that gave their life. There's a lot of other ones, I guess. A lot of other heroes that never went in the service, too.
Did you serve with any heroes?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What does the American flag mean to you?
Means freedom, I guess. I don't think it should be treated like a lot of people treat it.
Mm-hmm. So it kind of upsets you the way things are going?
Yeah.
If you had your best advice for your grandkids and the great-grandkids to come, what would you tell them?
Be themselves and be honest. Connor's going to probably end up in the Air Force or Naval Academy. He's been talking with them.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that he can serve our country too.
Yeah. Before we end the interview, is there anything that either I haven't talked about or I haven't mentioned that you want on your interview?
Probably things I missed, but like I was talking about when I went to Fort Hood, Texas. Met another sergeant there, and he was the one that told me that Brockway got killed.
Oh, yeah.
And, him and Brockway, I guess, were high school friends. That's when I rode over there and Calvert sent me a letter back.
Yeah. That was probably a hard letter for you to read.
Yeah. And it's strange how I run into this guy and knew somebody and
Yeah.
his son. Hard to believe it. Then to find out he had a son named Scott, and I named my son Scott.
Yeah, that's really coincidental.
Kind of strange, some of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, Gene, let me tell you something. It's just been a pleasure knowing you all these years, and it was a pleasure serving with you in Vietnam. And I just want to thank you, my friend, for taking the time and sharing your story with us today. So.
Thank you for